Welcome to the CG Sitdown. Season 2, we're ready for a great year. And here's your new host. I'm Ryder Nordstrom.
I'm Dylan Cherry.
I'm Preston Minson.
Stop by the Pink Flamingo to take care of all your baked good needs. We offer custom orders tailored to you. We cater to large parties and work perfectly for events like birthdays, weddings, or holiday festivities. We offer gift baskets starting at only $10. We also provide a wide selection of in-store sweets and candies. So please, visit the Pink Flamingo on 300 North Main, McPherson, Kansas today.
All right, so we're back to the CG Sit Down, Season 2, Episode 5, and we got a new guest today, Mr. Anderson. How's it going today?
It's going well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. He's an art teacher here at Canton-Galva, so we're going to be asking questions over that. So what made you want to be an art teacher?
I don't know that I ever really wanted to be an art teacher. I was just getting into art, and I had to figure out a way to make a living at it.
Yeah, I know I've taken your class before, and you're a pretty good artist.
Well, I used to be. I have since, as I've gotten older, I've developed tremors in my hands, and that's not a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
It's one of those things that I inherited from my family. Of all the things to inherit, I would have really much rather have inherited money, but instead,
Don't we all?
yeah, exactly. I would, but instead I get tremors, makes my hands shake. I can still draw, but it's more gestural. I can't do the fine lines type stuff anymore.
so that's kind of been a challenge that you've had to kind of mess with that.
I have had to adapt.
I was going to say, so has it changed your style, really, that you kind of paint or draw? Or?
Right now, I'm not doing any drawing or painting to speak of. I mean,
Right.
A little bit, but it's more along the lines of just sketching out ideas for jewelry stuff that I'm working
Right.
on. Plus, I've got a sculptural piece that I'm working on at home, but it's kind of been on the back burner for the last couple of months.
So, what is that sculpture piece? What are you making?
Right now it's going to be a woman standing on a landing looking out some doors out into space, whatever that may be.
Right.
But I had not ever done any female figures, and I've always had this idea in the back of my head, so I finally decided to start
Very
working
cool.
on this.
Very cool.
What was like the first big piece of like a sculpture that you've ever done?
Big piece? Well, it depends upon how you look at it. I mean, back before I went into school, back in my old college days, I was an animal science major. And I always took an art class every semester to just break up my schedule. It got me a humanities credit, and I was able to do artwork and, get credit for it. It was something I like to do. You guys should always think about taking one fun class a semester during your college years,
Right.
because you guys will get bombarded with all kinds of stuff, and you need something to break that up. That one class that's going to give you credit in another area that you will enjoy.
So you kind of use that as almost a side hobby / kind of stress release kind of deal,
That's
since
the
you
way
loved art so much.
That's the way it started out, yeah.
And then it just kind of moved into being more serious and noticing, hey, this is something I really like to do.
Right.
And then,
Well, I wasn't able to find, back when I first graduated back in the early 80s, I wasn't able to find a job in the area that I was wanting to with animal science degree, because at that point in time, the agriculture industry was severely, severely depressed.
Right.
And I wasn't able to find a job, and I was a heavy equipment operator, so I went to work operating heavy equipment. But I had a little shed out behind my house where I did wood carvings,
Okay.
and I had done several of those.
Very good.
And after my wife passed away, I thought, well, I was looking for a change. That's having a spouse pass away is an extremely stressful point of your life. And
Right.
I decided I was going to go back to school and get into art, which is where I am today.
So have you liked art like ever since you were like younger?
Oh yeah.
So that was always kind of one of those things that you were good at, and just it was a release of stress and.
Well, I don't know that I was good at it, but I worked at it.
Right.
It was as a kid growing up on a farm in the middle of winter. There's sometimes you don't have a whole lot of options outside. Being
Right.
out on the farm, I couldn't go to town. I couldn't hang out with friends. I had to find something to do. So I would sit and draw for hours on those days that you were snowed in.
Right.
So that's kind of how that got started. And when we would go on family vacations, wasn't like my family had a lot of money to do the tourist thing, but we would go to certain areas, mostly New Mexico, Colorado, Oklahoma, northern parts of Texas.
Right.
And when you don't have a lot of money to do the tourist thing, whatever, ended up going through a lot of museums and a lot of art galleries.
Right.
So that was a big influence on my life, right there.
Very cool.
As a child growing up, that's what I saw.
So,
And
with how your lifestyle being on the farm, did that lead you into your original degree in animal science? Is that where that came from?
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Well, I was really wanting to be a veterinarian until I found out that I couldn't pass chemistry. I mean, I did really good in the science and math classes and stuff like that, but chemistry just ate my lunch.
Right.
I mean, it was horrible. And if you can't pass chemistry, you're not going to get into any kind of medical type of a career type
Right.
on that level.
Right.
You got to have chemistry, because to become a veterinarian, you got to have, like, I checked into it one time, like 16 hours of chemistry.
Jeez.
By the time you get done. I mean, you're going to be taking some nasty
Right.
classes,
Right.
micro stuff. But that's the way it goes.
Yeah. So that kind of explained to how you got into art. So what is like your favorite part?
My favorite part is the hands-on, the creating. Once I reach the end product, I'm pretty much done with it. I am all about the process. There's some teachers that look at the end product as being the final deal, and for me, the end product's great. That's what we strive for. But for me, it's the process, whether it's drawing, painting, sculpture, jewelry, printmaking, whatever.
Right.
It's the process of creation.
Because it kind of stretches your mind when you're looking at things and how can this change it or how can that change it, or dimensions probably. Because is dimensions a big thing that you look at when you're doing your sculpture, or is it just kind of just doing what feels good and what looks good?
It's when I'm doing a sculpture, I literally see this thing in my mind in 360 degrees, full round.
Right.
And I have always been able to do that. And there's a lot of people that do not have that ability, but I do. When I create a sculpture, I'm seeing that thing from all sides, from the top, the bottom. I know what it's going to look like when I get done.
Right.
And a lot of people do not have that ability. Not everybody's born with it.
Right. So do you make blueprints or
Do I sketch it out?
Yeah.
No.
No, so it's just straight when you're doing it, it's like, man, I like that, and then you just sketch it out, right, or do whatever you're doing on your sculpture to break it out, or
No, not really. It's basically I am one of the sculptors that likes to work in direct wax. A lot of sculptors like to work in clay or plasticine, which plasticine is an oil-based clay that will never dry out. You can't fire it, but it's workable like clay. And but I work in direct wax, and which is, I don't know how to explain it. It's just you could get all different kinds of wax. You could get it soft, medium, and hard.
right.
And I like to work with the hard stuff because I like to carve in detail. I'm a detail freak.
Right. That's pretty cool.
That is one thing that I am really into. It's like if there's a wrinkle, I want you to be able to see that wrinkle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So that's kind of where I'm at.
So, like, what's one of your favorite art pieces you've ever done?
Or do you have a favorite?
My favorite is the last one I did. You know, whatever that is.
Yeah.
It's I love them all, you know, but I can't be so in love with them that I can't sell them.
Right.
If
Yeah.
somebody offers me enough money for it, it's yours, buddy.
I'll make a new one.
Yeah, I'll make a new one. I'll make a mold off of it. It's
Right.
which, you know, right now a lot of my original pieces, over time your molds degrade, and I don't have any molds left of a lot of my originals because they've degraded over the years, and I just threw them away.
Right.
That's just one thing that happens. You know, you're supposed to, once you make a mold, you're supposed to make all your additions that you're going to make out of that piece, which I work in bronze. That's my favorite medium to work in. And I love pouring bronze. If you guys have never seen that or been around it, you're missing out. It's really cool.
Right.
Because anytime you get to take something of solid metal and throw it into a pot and run enough heat around it that it melts and becomes liquid, I'm into that.
Right,
You
right.
know, and it's got its dangers to it. You know, you don't want to be walking in there in tennis shoes and
Right.
shorts when you're casting bronze. You kind of want to be suited up.
It's
for
hot,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, you're dealing with metal that's around 2,200 degrees.
Right.
If it lands on your foot, it's going to go right through your shoe, and it's not going to leave anything behind but ash.
Right.
Yeah.
So that could probably lead us into our next question.
What classes are you teaching right now, and like what are you guys doing in all of them?
Well, right now I've got Art 1, Drawing and Painting 1 and 2, and Advanced. And I've got a jewelry and a sculpture class. My sculpture class is the second semester. Right now we're in jewelry. And which, you know, I try to cover many of the mediums as possible.
So that's kind of cool that you link those two together, so like you can make them work together. Like you make your jewelry, and then you can sculpt it and stuff. So your jewelry, you were just talking about, you know, pouring bronze, and I got to come down my biology class last year and watch you do a casting, and that was pretty cool. So, well, kind of walk us through that process. How do you make jewelry?
Well, there's several different ways of making jewelry. You can fabricate it where you cut out the pieces and solder them together, or you can cast it, which is it's just like casting the larger bronze pieces, only on a much smaller scale. And you can also combine the two, which right now my jewelry class is what they're coming up to. They're getting ready to start on working on pieces to cast. And after we do a cast piece, you know, next 9 weeks, they're going to have to do a piece where they're combining fabrication, which is overlaying two different types of pieces of metal together, and then adding their cast piece to it.
How long does that usually take?
Depends upon what you're doing. I mean, that kind of a question is, I don't even know how to explain it, because we all work at different paces. We all have different ideas, and what may be a really quick for one person is going to be a long, drawn-out process for the next person. We all don't have the same thought process going into it.
What all types of jewelry have you made?
Oh, I just mostly do overlay. I do some cast pieces. I rarely combine the two because of I'm limited with equipment at my home. Right. So right now it's mostly just fabrication.
So like going on to the next question, how many years have you taught at CG?
Oh, see, I've been here since 04, 05. So, and I was at a little school out in western Kansas at Stanton County for a year. So I've taught here for 16, 17 years.
What brought you here?
Well, that might be a little touchy question, but the previous art teacher was released from the job, and they needed somebody to step in, and I happen to know the principal out of western Kansas knew the principal here, and they were friends. And he was telling him that they had lost their art teacher, and he said, I got a guy that worked here that is now working for the county here in town, or in this county, and give him a call. So we got together, and by right after Christmas, I was here.
Very cool.
So, like, where do you grow up at then? Like,
I
when
grew
you
up in a little town out in western Kansas called Hugoton.
Oh, okay.
We're about 30 miles from the Colorado line and about 13 from the Oklahoma line.
It's in the bottom corner.
Right, yeah, you just get out here on Highway 56 outside of town and you drive 4.5 hours that way. You stay on 56 and you're there.
Wow.
So, yeah, I
crazy.
grew up out in a part of the country where it don't rain. You know, you look on the old time maps, that's out in the part of the world that they called the Great American Desert.
Right.
Because our average rainfall was 12 to 18 inches a year. And there were some years that we was really lucky to get the 12.
Gosh.
Could be really dry.
Right. So, do you have any other hobbies? Like, I know you got a really cool old truck. Is that something that you really like to work on, or is that just kind of?
I don't work on the
little-
blue much. No, it's one of those things that I work on when I've got the time and the money.
Right.
You
right.
know, that can be a little money thing right there, you know, to get money saved up, because working on them old trucks is not always cheap.
Right, and it's hard to almost find parts most of the time, and
Well, there's companies out there now that make those old parts
which
for those
that's
trucks.
they're pretty smart for doing that, because they're bringing in a lot of money, because people, I mean, they want those old trucks. So
Yeah.
when you can get the pieces from them, and that's pretty cool, and that people are coming back to being able to restore those.
Yeah. So, have you always liked living in the country? You said you grew up.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like when I lived in town, I hated it.
Right.
I absolutely hate living in town. And I realize Canton's not a very big town, but I'd still hate it. I just like the quiet and solitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
You know, it's not that I don't like people. You know, there are some of them that I find irritating, but most generally, you know, it's like if I want to walk outside in the morning with a cup of coffee wearing my underwear, I ain't offended
Ain't
them.
that right? I was kind of sitting outside. Me and my family live out in the country. I was sitting outside talking to my dad. I kind of asked him some of that same question. I said, you know, why always the country? Why do we like it more? And he goes, because I know no one's going to build next to me. Or, you know, it's kind of the same deal that he can always walk outside and just, I don't know, there's nobody, you know, it's quiet. There's nobody, no loud noise, no disturbance. It's just always, you know, just quiet and peaceful.
Because I know, like, living in the city, like, at night, 11:30, you'll have people just drive by just roaring their engines. I'm like, I'm trying to sleep here.
Oh, I'm not going to say that doesn't happen out in the country.
No,
You'll get people that are dumb and going 105 down your road, and it just
Yeah.
sounds like there's a plane going over top of your house. But
But you know, talking about that, my property butts up right next to some other property, and those people have recently bought it, and they're going to be building a house fairly close to my house, and I'm not really thrilled about that.
right,
but
right.
I kind of got to laugh because they're building it down by the creek, and it's like that's going to flood.
Yeah, it's going to
Yeah.
flood immediately.
That's going to flood. About every 4 years, we get a huge rain
Right.
where the water, you know, that little creek, most of the time is not any wider than this table.
Yeah,
You could step across it. But when it happens like that, that creek will run about 250 yards wide.
yeah, yeah.
And when it's like that, I can't get out. I'm
Right.
literally blocked in. I mean, my house sits up high enough I don't have to worry about flooding, but
But all
I
around
can't-
you floods.
yeah, I can't get to any of the bridges. I
Oh,
can't cross
right,
any of the
right.
bridges because they're all underwater. There's one bridge about, I would say about 250 yards north of my house that I take to town all the time. Well, I've seen times where that bridge, even the railings were completely underwater.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's a
so-
lot of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially around here. I mean, but you're right. Every once in a while, we do get those huge rains, and then
Yeah.
our ground's so used to not seeing it that when it does hit, that it doesn't know what to do with it. And it just all
So,
floods.
hey, those people are, you know, it's a free country. They can build their house anywhere they want.
But
If
that's interesting because in FFA I've been doing soil judging, and I learned now that it's a job that people go and they can look at it and tell you this is going to flood, which is interesting. That how someone not walked up to them and been like, listen, your house is going to flood.
Well,
At
I'm
some
not going to
point.
tell them nothing.
You're just going to sit and watch.
Yeah.
you're just
Watch
gonna
it flood.
have your coffee on your front porch just watching it.
No, I actually won't be able to see it from where they're building it. They're building it down in a corner and behind a bunch of trees and stuff. when they was working down there, I got really curious and kind of wandered down there. It's like, what on earth are these people doing?
Right.
Because that's definite floodplain.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be deep, but hey, you know, they need to do their research before they spend that much money on a house, and to do that, it's like, I thought they was going to build it up closer to the road, but evidently not. But hey, it's a free country. They
free
do
country.
that.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Anderson, for coming in here and talking to us. It's interesting. Hopefully, a lot of the people that watch this can, learn more about you. And I don't know, I had a fun time listening to all your stories. But thank you again for coming on. And we'll we might get you on another time if you pick up another class or something interesting.
I don't know what other class I could teach at this time other than ceramics, and that ain't going to happen.
What is ceramics? Okay, I guess we're not in. What is ceramics?
Well, ceramics is like pottery, clay type stuff. And the first year I taught, there was a ceramics class, and I don't ever want to do that again because kids make a mess with that mud,
Right.
and don't clean it up. And it's like, I'm not playing this game.
Yeah. So haven't you worked with?
Oh yeah,
ceramics
absolutely.
much?
I like it. I think it's cool. Kids like it too, but they don't want to clean up their mess.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm kind of grouchy about that.
Right. Well, that kind of sucks, but I don't know. Who knows? I could see that possibly being a class game, but if you don't want to, then I guess
Yeah,
they're probably not going to.
You get to clean up, little clay balls off of your walls and stuff like that. No, that's not good.
Well, all right. Thank you again for coming on here. I hope you have a good day, and we'll see you guys later.
All right. Well, fellas, thanks for having me. Y'all be good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was pretty good.
You did record audio, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to do it again.
Brother, I asked and you go.
I had to think.
Yeah.
I forgot to turn on the audio. That would be hilarious.